Hey homeschool friends. So today's video is a homeschool update video, and honestly it is going so well. We are having the best month of the year probably. I mean, the curriculum's going well, the schedule is going well. Both of my big kids are really progressing in reading and math, and we have read some amazing books. And so I have a lot to share with you, and it is all good things. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to my channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you have been coming for a while. These homeschool video updates are seriously some of my favorites to make. Sometimes I have problems and need your help, but sometimes, like this month, things are going really well, and I just kind of want to celebrate that. I want to celebrate that with all of you. So let me hop in because I've got a lot to talk about. But the first thing, kind of like family life updates, I'd say things are going really well. We enjoyed the holidays. We got to see both sets of families, and it was just fantastic. Other things, I would say I'm in a season of trying to streamline some things, like some chores. In particular, I'm working on groceries and meal planning. So if y'all have any tips for me on that, I would love that, because I've got a lot of other things streamlined, like laundry and cleaning and things like that. But the food is just not that easy for me to kind of get a handle on, and I just feel like I spend so much time every week doing it. So anyway, that's kind of life, but otherwise it's really good. I'm really enjoying the beginning of December here, kind of into Advent. I shared in my last video about our plans for our homeschool, how we're doing Advent, things like that. So go check that out if you want more information on that. But this update is more like November. So what's been going well over the past 4 weeks. And so let me hop into family subjects first. So we're still really enjoying Sonlight. As for the history, we have been slowly working our way through the Revolutionary War. We actually started first with this book, which I've talked about already in some of the updates. We really liked it. And what I like about lit programs, so we went through the whole Revolutionary War in this book, and now we're kind of going back through it via this book, which has a lot more to do with the people of the Revolutionary War. So you're kind of going back through the same events, which I like as a teacher. That's really good for memory recall in the kids. I could be like, what do you guys remember about Paul Revere and things like that? And then we can talk about a new angle from this book. So I like that. I don't feel like it's boring in the sense that they've already been through this. They don't want to hear it again. I feel like they feel pride in their knowledge of it. And so when we go back through, they can be like, oh, I remember this, da, 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 da. And it's just really sweet to see. And additionally, I did want to mention, for the Revolutionary War, there is a really good episode of Adventures in Odyssey. I don't know if your kids listen to that. My kids really like it, but it has to do with the shot heard around the world, Paul Revere's ride. But it takes those events and dramatizes them and makes you really feel it. And so my son loved that because he likes Adventures in Odyssey. So he liked that it talked about the history that we're learning as well. And then science, still loving Sonlight Science. I actually am planning a Sonlight Science review here, I think in a week or so. So stay tuned for that, because I'm going to go through all of the details of how the program's set up, the experiments, how I really like it. I really like it. There are some aspects of it, especially the fact that it is a Christian curriculum, but it really supports the spectrum of viewpoints that fall out about science within the Christian faith. And I will get more into that in a couple weeks, because I've just been blown away. I haven't been able to find another curriculum like that. It's very unique in my opinion. So I will give all the details for that really soon, and make sure you're subscribed and all of that if you are interested in hearing about the Sonlight Science, because I'm excited to share. Okay, as for read alouds, which I feel like this is my favorite part of these videos, we have gone through a number of different read alouds. So I have a couple that were scheduled in the Sonlight Abeka K5 program, and so we read this one, which is A Grain of Rice by Helena Claire Pittman, and it says the smallest rewards can grow into the largest of treasures. This was just a really clever book. It's very short. Actually, the last third of it just explains kind of the math behind it, because there is a little bit of math involved. And the basis of the book is that there's this poor farmer who asked the emperor to marry the princess, and the emperor was just furious and all this stuff. But then he is clever and patient, and he figures out different ways that he can actually get what he wants. It's pretty fun. My kids were just constantly amazed by what was happening in this book. So it was a really good one. We liked that. And then the next one we just finished, and this is Lulu and the Dog from the Sea by Hilary McKay. But this one was just sweet and precious, and Both of my kids loved it, even though it has a girl as the main character. Sometimes my son doesn't like that, but this was just clever. It's about this family that goes to the beach for vacation, and then there's this homeless dog that the girl, Lulu, takes a liking to, and then there's a bunch of antics that happen from there. But it was just really good and really sweet and perfect for this age. The next book we read, this was one of our nighttime books, the ones that weren't associated with our program, and this one's called Book, Uncle, and Me. And this was a really cool book. It had a lot of undertones of activism and the fact that kids can actually make a difference in a variety of different ways. And that was just really empowering for my kids. It's about this girl who goes and visits Book Uncle, who is a man who runs kind of it's like a traveling lending library, but it's free. So it's like you could just exchange books and then he takes donations, sort of idea. But then the city was going to shut him down and she got mad and she wanted to stand up for him, and there was an election going on, so she just kind of wrote to the people of power, if you will. So it's just kind of neat. It was a fun book to follow and see that kids aren't powerless and they can be clever and thoughtful of others. So it was really good. We like that. My kids have also been flying through the audiobooks again to the point where I just can't keep up with them, and they end up just checking out books that they've already listened to and just listen to them again. And so I'll put up some pictures, actually. Let me do that. I'll put up some pictures of some of the audiobooks they have been listening to. So they did pick up the latest Vanderbeekers, something about a wish. I'll put it up here. They've also been checking out Magic Treehouse books, which I feel like my son's just about ready to start reading himself, but our library has tons of them on the Libby app. So they've been checking out tons of those, as well as all the fudge ones like Double Fudge, something about a fourth grade nothing. He just loves them. He thinks they're really funny. He went back through Spiderwicks and then House of Robot, all these that he's listened to before, but he just listens to tons of audiobooks. And same with my daughter. She has been enjoying a lot of the Magic Treehouse books as well, and the Vanderbeekers she's now just starting to get into. So those are all the audiobooks that they've been listening to as well. They like books as much as I like books, which I'm just loving. So that's kind of our family subjects. What's been going on there? All good things. Okay, to move on to my second grader, so my son, and he has been the topic of a lot of these updates, but what I love is everything's kind of working well. We have shifted things around a decent amount during the fall, and so it's been nice to kind of land and settle on some things, like for instance, math, it's going well. We're still using Saxon Math, and I actually just put out a video a couple weeks ago, or last week, about how we use Saxon Math, and so I go through a lot of things there. So go watch that if you're curious about how we are using Saxon, but it's been going really well and he's learning a ton. As for reading, so phonics, reading, all of that stuff, that's a lot of what I've been wrestling with this fall. And so he's doing so well. Let me actually show you something. So I just printed this off the internet, and it's basically a words per minute chart. So it's a way to track fluency, so how fast they are reading and how fast they're reading accurately. So how this works basically is that you have them read a book out loud to you, a book that's on their level, but not one that they've read a ton. And then you set a timer for a minute and just have them read, and then you count how many words they read, and you subtract off any words that either they got wrong or they needed help with. So as you can see here, he's doing so well. So here at the beginning of the year, right here, it was like the same where it actually went down a little bit, and that's where I started to panic. That's actually what started my shift away from All About Reading and finding Abeka to really support his phonics. Was this. It was showing me that he just wasn't progressing very well with that, and then we added on Abeka, and as you can see, it's just been jumping like crazy. So every month he's just been jumping higher and higher, and it's not like I needed that fluency chart to know that. I can tell just by reading with him that he is doing so much better, but it's nice to have kind of a tangible measure of that, if you will. So I highly recommend doing kind of a word fluency kind of check on your students as they are starting to learn to read. It's just helpful for me as a teacher. So like I said, we started using Abeka grade 1 in October. And so he is not in grade 2, he's in grade 1, but Abeka is notoriously ahead. So it's just perfectly where he needs to be on his skill set. And that's been going great. He has been learning a ton with that program, and I've just been loving it. We did just recently start putting All About Reading back into the rotation because I like All About Reading in the sense that it explains things really well. And so we've just been adding kind of one day a week where we will do 2 lessons at once with All About Reading. And for those of you who have used All About Reading, that will make sense because one lesson is always the new teaching, like you learn a new phonogram and you practice that, and you have games and fluency sheets. And then the lesson right after that is usually the lesson where the kids pull out the reader. And within that lesson, there's like a practice sheet and a game and stuff like that. But what I've ended up doing is, because he's doing Abeka, he knows a lot of the phonograms that are in All About Reading level 2 at this point, so we can go a little quicker. I can remind him how that works and we can play the games if we want to, but mostly we'll just read the book and we'll combine those 2 lessons into kind of one lesson once a week. And I'm actually planning on making a video about how I combine those 2 programs, Abeka and All About Reading, because I find that they are so complementary. And I have never heard of anybody using them together, but I think they really work well. And so I'm going to make a video about how I do that and why I do that. So that's also coming out on this channel. I've just been having a lot of creative ideas with my videos, but look for that as well. And so we do those 2 programs during our school time, but I've also been pulling out an extra time for reading aloud for my kids in the afternoons. And so for him, we've been using a lot of the Good and the Beautiful books. So he's pretty much done with this box D set and he's moving into the level 1s. And just because of the way that the Good and the Beautiful teaches their phonograms, they're just in a different order. So it was hard to jump into these when we were just doing All About Reading. He didn't have enough skills. But since we've tagged on Abeka, he can do it now. And so it's just opened up a ton of new books for him. So we've been doing those, as well as some of the Sonlight readers, which are a lot of the Dr. Seuss books. We've gone through almost all of the Sonlight grade 1 readers. So he's just plowing through the readers. It's fantastic. As for handwriting, we actually made a switch for that, which I don't know if I mentioned in our last video, but since we switched to Abeka, Abeka has a solid handwriting program and it's cursive. And since we've been using Danielian for, I'd say, about 2 years with my son, he was really solid on that and I felt like he was ready to move into cursive. And again, since Abeka's so ahead, I did not want to move him into grade 2 cursive. I felt like after flipping through the teacher's guide for grade 1, I'm like, this is plenty for him as a new cursive learner. So I just got the Writing with Purpose book that goes along with the Abeka curriculum for grade 1, and it's been really good. He's been practicing all of his letters. It moves a little faster than my daughter's, which I'll share in just a bit, but it's a good pace for him because he already has some pretty good fine motor skills when it comes to handwriting. So that's been a really good switch. And then spelling for language arts, we're still using All About Spelling level 1. We're almost 3/4 of the way through it. We're doing about a lesson a week and he's fully capable of doing that. It is teacher intensive, so I'm hoping I can keep it going. I'm just not sure. I think it's such a good program. I think it's worth it, but it's always kind of on the back burner for if I need to make a switch. That might be the area I do, but for now, it's been really good. Okay, as for the last section of language arts I want to talk about for my son, that's the grammar and creative writing section. So we kind of took a break when we were really hammering on phonics, but we're in a good rhythm with that. And so I decided to actually start Essentials in Writing. So I talked about this program when I was doing my comparison of different writing programs for the early elementary years, which I'll link above. And this was my plan to get started. I was thinking initially of getting started maybe after Christmas, but there was just kind of space in our schedule since phonics and reading was going so well. So I just decided to hop into it. And the way that this program is structured is that there's a grammar unit for half the year, and then there's writing for half the year. So what's nice is he's had some grammar, so I feel like during this section we can go a little bit faster through some of those lessons, but he has been loving the video lessons. The teacher, Mr. Stevens, he has just been loving. He laughs out loud a number of times. I mean, the teacher's talking about subjects and predicates. It's nothing funny, but just the way he interacts with the kids and the camera, it's good. He's well suited for what he does, and so my son likes that. And it's just been a really nice, easy fit. Like, it doesn't take us very long every day. You only watch the video one day and do the lesson, and then the next couple lessons usually just reinforce the video. So you're not watching the video every day, if that makes sense. So it's going really well. So that's kind of the new program we're adding. I wasn't really planning on it, but I just thought I'd try, and it's going really well. Okay, To transition to my first grader, my daughter, things are going really well with her as well. So math, it's going well. In my last video on Saxon Math, I talked a bit about how I do math a little differently with her. Oftentimes we end up doing 2 lessons a day because she just gets it. And I placed her in Saxon Math 1 because I felt like it was a good fit. Math 2 would have been too much, and so Math 1 was the answer, but a lot of times she understands it, so we go a little faster. So that's going really well. She's doing great. As for reading and phonics, I think I said this last time, but I can't quite remember. We completely switched her over to K5, Abeka. And again, she's in first grade, but I feel like this was a better place for her because she was still struggling with blending and sounding out words. And really that was what pushed me out of All About Reading for her, is that she was just not doing well with blending those small words, the CBC words. She just struggled to get through all 3. And then for those of you who use All About Reading, you know there's little review cards, the green cards. They just keep stacking up on her, and we keep trying to play different games and pause and things, and she just wasn't catching the technique. And it was hard to get to a place where she could actually master those cards. And that was our second time through the start of All About Reading level 1. So I knew she just needed a little help. And so at the same time as I was switching her brother, I just decided, let's try Abeka. It's a well-known phonics program, and it's been a really good fit. I mean, I skipped the first half of the program because it really focused on the alphabet sounds, and she doesn't need that. She knows her alphabet sounds. She just needed help with blending, which Abeka does a really good job with. There's a lot of blend ladders and a lot of different manipulatives and cards that go with that. And I did pick a lot of those up. Like this one is the 1 vowel word cards, which I'll just pull a couple out, which, to be honest, a lot of these were in her All About Reading level 1. They're not hard words, but she is doing a much better job at sounding them out. Now I can pull out like any card in here and she can sound it out just fine. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that she's learning how to blend the first 2 sounds together, like fa, n, fan, as opposed to before she would do fa, n, fan, and she would just lose track of it. And so that technique has really helped her. And I know some kids probably don't need that technique, but she did. And so it's been really good for her. So let me know if you want a video on all the resources and different things I have picked up in this switch to Abeka Phonics, because I'd be happy to show you what I've picked up and how I'm using it. Just let me know down below if anybody's interested in that. I've been really impressed with their program. And like her brother, we also have been reading a bit in the afternoon, and we've just been using a lot of the readers that come with Abeka, and they're great. And she loves that they're so small and she can read the little stories, and she feels a lot of pride in that. And we're still actually using some of the All About Reading level 1 readers for her as well, because she can read a lot of that now much better than when we were actually doing the program. She goes back to it now and she's like, has no problem with it, when at the time she was just struggling. So that's been good. Those have been good resources still to have for her extra reading time. The other language arts we do. So I don't do spelling with her yet. I don't do grammar or writing with her yet, but we do handwriting. And she did Danielian last year, and that was going well. And I almost kept her on Danielian, but then I was just looking through this book and looking at how they teach the cursive to the K5 kids, and she could handle it. And so I started her on cursive, and I actually really like how gentle the K5 cursive is, because she's 6.5, so she's not 5. And I feel like a 5-year-old would struggle with what they're asking them to do, but a 6.5-year-old, it's a perfect transition from where she was with Danielian. She wasn't to the level her brother was, but this isn't asking her to do too much, so she's really enjoying it. And I think it's good for her confidence to kind of follow behind her brother and not be kind of stuck in the old program. So it's been really good. She's been excelling at that as well. So that's my daughter. She's doing great. Like I said, I'm just giddy with how awesome this past month has gone. We have just been in a serious groove. So who's left? Oh, my twins, my preschoolers. They're just doing their thing. They're doing great. They still go to preschool 3 days a week, and it's just been perfect. I mean, the teachers are great. They do a lot of crafts. They do a lot of play outside, inside, a lot of story time, a lot of show and tell. It's just been really sweet and just perfect for them. They just love it. So I'm really happy I made that decision. And I don't know when I'm going to add them into the fold of our homeschool, but not this year. Not this year. Not going to do it. So anyway, that's where they're at. And that's the update for November. Seriously, the best month ever. I'm so happy. I hope like December continues that way. And like I said in that homeschool planning video, because things are going so well, we're just kind of keeping going with the current math language arts plan. And then we're adding Advent in kind of more as a family over dinner. So anyway, go see that if you're curious about what we're doing for December. But November was fantastic. So let me know, how are things going? How are things going in your homeschool? What are you planning for December? I would love to hear all of that. So I hope you all are doing well. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, all the things, subscribe. And otherwise, I will see you in the next homeschool video. Okay, guys, take care.